Amid the coronavirus shutdown, Ellen DeGeneres has been continuing her daily syndicated talk show from the comfort of her mansion, and then, of course, complaining that it's like prison. Now, that, of course, negates the need to do the show for many of her staff or for many of her staff to actually work on the show. Now, they're complaining that since this is the case, they're not getting guaranteed pay or hours. Now, that's a significant problem considering how the job market, 22 million people, are now out of work. Very difficult to find work now, especially when you have social distancing measures in place. So, obviously, these people do need some help in order to take care of their families and to pay their bills. The $1,200 check from the government's not exactly going to cut it, especially if you work in LA, Hollywood, uh, etc. Right? So, this is a big deal, right? It's very important. So now these staffers have spoken out and they've talked to Variety. Now, according to one insider speaking to the magazine, these staffers, many of whom have been loyally working for her for years, have been shortchanged on their hours, have received pay cuts, and worst of all, nobody has been telling them about what's going to happen to them and their jobs and their pay. And not only that, but were also replaced by a non unionized tech company to help Ellen broadcast daily from her McMansion. Two sources at Ellen's show, speaking to Variety under conditions of anonymity because Ellen is allegedly, reportedly very mean, especially to her staffers, say that higher ups in production would occasionally answer phone calls but reveal little about their status. Crew members did actually hear from production executives last week, finally, after weeks of not having really any information about what is going to happen to them. And now, when they were contacted by executives, they were told to expect a 60% pay decrease. This is why the show has actually increased production. There are now more shows happening. So, 60% pay decrease, right? The thing about Ellen is that she's actually worth a lot of money. I believe her contract is worth somewhere around 50 to 80 million or 50 to 90 million dollars a year. That's her contract. And she is worth anywhere from 330 to 450 million dollars, right? So she's worth quite a bit of money. So why is she cutting pay for her staff during a pandemic where millions of people are losing their jobs through no fault of their own? Now, the source also added that there are only four of the core crew members who are currently working on the remote version of Ellen, and even they have had their hours reduced because of less work, mainly because they hired someone else. But and that's not even the most frustrating part for them, right? What they're complaining about mainly is the lack of communication. They didn't know any of this was coming. In fact, insiders speaking to the industry publication claimed that for over 2 weeks, from late March until April 9th, the crew were never told how much they were going to get paid or if they were going to get paid at all. And during the communication blackout, Ellen expanded her at home, going from hosting 4 shows a week to 5, all of which were shot over a 2-day period in her home. Now, the show typically films 4 10-hour workdays per week, but the crew was told on April 10th that they should be expected to be paid for just 2 8-hour days a week. So a significant cut in hours and a significant cut in pay. And at the same time, they had hired Key Code Media produced technical elements of the show's new remote production while their crew members with the same skill sets were not working. Now, again, I mentioned that there's no reason that they shouldn't be getting paid. Ellen is super wealthy. And here's the thing, when you compare what Ellen is doing to other people that are doing the same kind of work, right? Doing a talk show now from their homes, right? When you look at other people like Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Kimmel has been paying crew members out of his own pocket. As soon as this crisis began, he started dipping into his own fortune in order to pay his workers. And now, once they returned to air, ABC had started paying their full rates. Not only that, but you also have crew members on TNT's Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, HBO's Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and Showtime's Desus and Morrow were also being paid full rates with transparent communication. So these hosts and these companies' talk shows, they are actually taking care of their workers. So it's not as if they can't. It's not as if this is an impossible ask. But apparently Ellen is not going to. She is not going to do this. Why? It's because she's trash. She is bourgeois liberal garbage. She is the classic limousine liberal. Just because she's a successful gay icon and an inspiration to many LGBTQ people doesn't mean that she's a good person overall. There's more to people than just her identity, of course. And one of those things is how you treat the people around you and how you treat your workers. And from some of the stories I've heard, and I'm sure not all of them are true, but many of them are or might be, that she treats staff and people around her like they don't exist or like she is better than them. For example, I've read accounts, and I'm not entirely sure. You should take these with a grain of salt. But there are many who have said, hey, man, look, she won't even let you look her in the eyes. That sounds a lot like what Steve Harvey had been doing as well. Steve Harvey, don't look at me. Interns, you're not allowed to look at me. How dare you look me in the eyes? Don't you know who I am? Of course you know who I am. Then why the hell are you looking at me? I'm so much better than you. That's that kind of absolute elitist attitude. Absolutely elitist. And you know, when it comes to people that make your show possible, you know, who you wouldn't be here without their hard work, maybe you should actually take care of them, especially when the circumstances aren't their fault. This is about fairness. It's about humanity. And unfortunately, so many of our celebrities and politicians, because we have this culture, right, that says, oh no, if you're wealthy, you're better than everyone else, and you should act like it because those little people aren't worth a goddamn, right? We shouldn't care about those people at all because you are the best. You are the greatest. Look at how wealthy and successful you are. You're on television. But if you're not on TV, you're garbage. You're trash. You're lower than the low. You are the scum on my boot. That's how these people act. We need to remind them that, you know what? We're the ones who make you successful. We're the ones, not you. Because none of these celebrities would be anything without the workers and wouldn't be anything without the viewers. And maybe they need to stop focusing on their own wealth and their own power. I think when all this is over, us regular people, we need to remember who is on our side, the side of fairness and humanity, and who hid in their gilded mansions, taking only care of only themselves and their own wealth. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.